you guys already know what time it is. The 2.0 drip marketing just concluded for Zenless Zone Zero, which means that we have 3 brand new characters to go over to get excited about our 2.0 upcoming patch. We have the man Pan Yinhu, Xuan, and the girl Fufu coming in with 2.0, and all of these characters are looking super sick. I'm not gonna lie, originally I wasn't super excited about the characters specifically for 2.0 because they didn't really attract me at first, but the more and more I see about these characters and their overall designs, I'm super excited to see what they actually bring to the game and how their overall gameplay will be once we get our hands on them. And to start, I want to talk about the character I'm actually the most excited for, which people might be surprised about this, but Pan Yinhu looks super sick. He gives me complete Kung Fu Panda vibes, the man Po the GOAT, and so his overall aesthetic and design is currently my favorite right now. He just looks super cool, and I can't actually wait to see how he'll be animated. If you guys didn't know, I actually liked Ben a lot when the game first came out, and I still somewhat play him right now. I don't heavy main him, but I think Ben is a good character and a lot of fun. And I know a lot of people don't feel that way just because how slow he is, and I imagine some of you might feel the same way with Pan Yinhu if he ends up being a slowish character. They could okie dokas and make him a much faster bear this time, but overall, this character's overall aesthetic looks really good. Also, HoYo, make sure that we get a polar bear so we can get the We Bear Bears meme. We need it. You know what to do next. You know what to do. But just to get into Pan, he is a physical defense character, and to start off this conversation with him, we need to talk about what does this potentially mean for him being a physical defense character for the game. And when seeing this, I imagine that Pan is going to be a defense unit that plays more of a supportive role for the new class and or element for Xuan. This is because with her being a new class and element, which we'll get more into detail when we get to her section, she's going to need a character that's going to be able to support her, because more than likely she's not going to have but so many options to work with. She's bringing something completely new to the table, and I think Pan is going to be one of those characters that's going to be strictly designed for her to work specifically with her, so that she at least has some form of free-to-play option for players to have when she releases. Since she was drip marketed with her on the same day, this tells us that he's going to be a part of her banner on phase 1, so you're easily going to be able to get at least 1 to 2 copies of the character when trying to pull for her, which is good to know. When it comes to the idea of his overall kit, he needs to have something that allows him to stand out amongst the other defense characters in the game. Right now we have Caesar, Seth, and Ben, and all of these units do things similarly, but also have their own differences, allowing them to have their own place within the current state of the game. Ben is a character that provides crit based buffs and a shield, while also being able to be built somewhat of like a DPS. Then we have Seth, who provides buffs and shields for anomaly characters because of his anomaly proficiency buff, but he's also an interrupt type defense character that allows him to shut bosses down whenever you fully charge his EX special. And then we have Caesar, who plays the defense role and provides a great universal shield and amazing support buffs for her team, but she also has the ability to provide stun for them, allowing her to be somewhat of a pseudo stunner. And so Pan is going to have to be able to provide that same feeling of being similar to the other defense characters, but being his own entity and his own thing, so that he stands out amongst them. And when trying to brainstorm and think of some things that he could do, I was thinking maybe he could be a unit that provides somewhat of a buff to ultimates maybe. So he'll be a character that would probably be boxing on field, but he'll be able to generate decibels faster for his team overall, making him a very strong molded character to be a part of really any team. He can also be a buffer for stats like maybe ER, pen, or even HP. Those are stats that haven't really got touched on at all within the game so far, so that could put him in a place right there. They could also make him our first ever healer in the game, or our true first healer. The only other healer we kind of have right now is Astra, and that's with her ultimate, but I don't really consider her a healer because since she only has 1 healing ability. What I mean by Pan being our first healer is that maybe his EX special, his ultimate, and some other aspects of his kit allow him to heal, and maybe they can also allow those healing abilities to also provide maybe some debuff against enemy, something of that nature, of making him a supportive character that I imagine will work well. That also kind of fits the overall aesthetic of the character and the setting. It always feels like when it comes to Chinese tradition, you feel like there's like a healing connection with that. But overall, I'm just excited to see how Pan will be playing once we get our hands on him, because he just looks super sick, and I hope that they do an amazing job with designing his overall kit. They already did a great job with how his appearance looked, and I'm just super excited to finally get another A rank. He also continues to help the A rank issues that we've been having within Zenless, and this is the next A rank that we've gotten within 2 patches, 2-3 patches now. We just got Poker in 1.6, and now we're getting Pan in 2.0. That's really good. We're getting more A ranks, and I love to see that. So hopefully that he's strong. Hopefully that he provides a lot of support for the teams that we're going to be using. But more than likely, like I said earlier, he's more than likely going to be mostly made to specifically work with Xuan, who we're going to transition into now. Xuan is our new character that provides a new class, a new element, and she is not a Void Hunter. I need to make sure I say that because everybody has been going around saying she's a Void Hunter, but I believe it's due to the translation error or how it was translated for EN. When looking at Japan and China with their translations, they say she's on a similar status to Void Hunter, or that she's akin to them, but she's not a Void Hunter ranked character at all. And we can easily tell this by the symbol a part of her trailer. If we look back at Miyabi's trailer when she released, we could see that by her name she had this little Void Hunter icon to let us know what she is. But when we look at Xuan, she has a completely different icon. So what this tells me is that she's a character that's similar to a Void Hunter status, but she's given a completely different title than what a Void Hunter is. That means we're probably going to have another group of characters that rivals the same status as Void Hunters, which just sounds really cool to me. We don't know what this actual title is right now, but Xuan will be the introduction to that. And I hope that we get maybe at least one other character during the 2.0 release that kind of shows us more about what this new title is and how it's similar and different from the Void Hunter title. That'll be very interesting to see. But when coming into talking about Xuan, the main things that everybody wants to know is what is this new class and what is this new element? And currently, we don't have really any information on them unless you're looking at leaks. I don't cover leaks here, so we're not going to really speak on that into the video. But just to give my assumption on what I think this could be, this new class, I really have honestly no idea what they'll be doing with this, but I do hope that it's not a pure DPS class. That's because we've already been receiving enough DPS, actually really strong ones within the both attacker and anomaly role. And so I think that this class should maybe be more of a hybrid of being able to play in between different types of roles. So what I mean by that is that maybe a character from this new class could play like an attack and a defender, or maybe it can play like a support and an anomaly, something of that nature, to allow it to be different and stand upon its own and be very unique. I believe that's the main goal to have with a new class like this. Because honestly, when introducing this, my first thought on is that, did we really need a new one? I don't know. It felt like that we didn't really push too much with like defense characters so far. So introducing a new class already so soon just feels like, how are they going to balance this? How are they going to make it different, unique enough between the others? And how are we going to have this being introduced and not outshine or get more attention than the others? Because we can already say that defense units don't get that many characters right now. And so to have another class like this, is this going to get priority over some of the other ones? Or is this going to be the class that gets the short end of the stick? We don't know. And also, and now that it's a brand new class, how will this intertwine with the other pre-existing classes that we have in the game? Because all of these other classes were designed in mind to work with one another and within each other. It didn't think of this new one at all. So I just don't know how this is going to work with some of the other units, but hopefully they figured out a way to introduce it and make it pretty seamless and enjoyable, and hopefully Xuan won't be as restrictive as I'm thinking she's going to be because of it. When getting into her new element though, I think this is going to be very similar to how we ended up finding out with Miyabi with her Frost element. Frost is essentially a mutation of ice, allowing her to obtain some unique capabilities in comparison to regular ice units. And I think for Xuan, hers seems to be a mutation of ether, and how I'm able to assume that is because their designs on the icons always include some pre-existing design elements of the previous icon that it's being mutated from. And from what we can see so far, it's having like this little star-like design pattern similar to the ether icon. So it just makes the most sense to me that this is going to be some form of a mutation of ether. And if that's the case, this might be really broken. Ether's already one of the better anomaly effects in the game, and to have a mutation that's going to be stronger than it more than likely, because we already see what Frost is to ice. That just sounds super insane. How are they going to balance this? I don't know. I'm actually scared on how they're going to balance this, because we don't need a situation where Xuan is going to be light years stronger than Miyabi. The game doesn't need that. We need her to be strong enough that where she can be on a similar level as Miyabi, maybe a little bit stronger than her, but we don't need her to be introducing so much of a next higher power level where that Miyabi feels like that she's trying to compete with her and falling behind. We don't need that. That'll be very unhealthy for the game. I hope that they put her in a place where that she feels like a great introduction. She feels strong and feels amazing for new players to get into and be a worthy investment, but she doesn't make other accounts feel worse off because you don't have her. Which leads me into the next thing we need to cover, and I know a lot of people are going to be asking, is Xuan a must-pull character? And the best bet to say to you guys with that is that if you are willing to invest into a new element and a new class, meaning that potentially you won't have too many options to offer to you once she initially releases, I think she will be a must-pull character for you if you're willing to deal with that. If you're willing to be somebody that not only is going to be pulling her, but you're going to also be willing to commit to pulling to the other units that's going to support how she plays, then definitely go for it. This is a lot different situation than Miyabi's, because Miyabi came much later into the game's life during the 1.x patch life, so we already had a few characters that released that allowed you to build somewhat of an easy team, especially a free-to-play team for her. But with Xuan outside of Pan, you might not have that many options for her. And so we will have to see what her additional ability and stuff is going to be and how she'll be able to intermingle with pre-existing characters in the game to see if she'll be an easy character to build teams around. If not, you might have to be invested with her in the long haul, which with a character of a status like this, I think most of you will be. She's definitely going to have the power to back up the title that she has, and she's going to have the strength, so probably similar to Miyabi, that maybe you don't even need a full team to get the clears that you're looking for. But if you're somebody that wants to make sure that you have your full stack teams and you want to be dedicated to the character, just know that she's probably going to be something that you're going to have to be a little bit invested into, since she's coming so much early on. This is kind of why I wish it came a little bit later within 2.x, but she's here immediately, so we got no choice but to get ready for her. If you're someone that's hesitant on her because she's a new class and a new element though, I would say wait until we get around a 2.0 patch, because that means we'll be getting 2.1 drip marketing right before the patch releases, and we'll be able to see what ends up coming up later, if there's going to be other units that release within the next patch to be a supporter unit for her, or if there's maybe some other units that you might just be more interested in. Just look out for the other units coming, because she's not going to be the strongest forever, you know. And then lastly, when talking about Xuan, we need to talk about should we get ready for a huge meta shift. And I think that since she's a brand new class and a brand new element, we definitely better get prepared for another shift in the meta to be coming. But more so because of the class that she is and less of the element. And I say this because we're about to get introduced to completely new types of characters that we don't know anything about what they exactly do. This means that they could be pulling off some things that just seem super bizarre and uncanny to what Zenless current team structure and overall combat is, and that's super exciting but also scary. And I say that because this brings me back again to that it could provide some of a inconsistent experience for us if they don't properly balance out the amount of new characters that we get under this class versus the other class units in the game, while also making sure they meld together. I'm really just interested in how they're going to make this new class work with all of the other ones. And Xuan is going to be the first example of that, but we won't truly know how this class will properly work until we get maybe 2 or 3 other units that fall under it. Yeah, Xuan looks exciting. I think a lot of us are going to be super excited to play her. I think she's going to be really strong. I think most people are going to be excited for pulling for her and being satisfied with what they get from her. And yeah, I just kind of wish we got a little bit more build up to her, but it is what it is. She's coming in 2.0, so get ready. And then finally, we have Fufu, our fire stun character, and the unit that I think a lot of people are going to be sleeping on. Shoot, I was originally sleeping because I wasn't a huge fan of her design, but I think this is a character that is more than likely the most skippable out of the 2.0 patch. But she will more than likely be in a similar vein of not what Lighter does, but the fact that since people are going to be skipping her now, more than likely, people are going to feel like as time goes by, maybe there was a character that they should have picked up on. And speaking of Lighter, automatically when seeing her release, everybody on Twitter was automatically posting talking about Lighter power creep. And I'm just here to say this right now, this is not going to be Lighter power creep, and I feel confident in that. And why I say that is because if we take a look at Lighter and how he was designed and made with his kit, he is a niche stun unit that mostly only works with fire and ice units. You could pair him on other teams outside of those elements, but you won't get the full effect of how strong Lighter is if they aren't fire and ice units. And so because they made him a niche character, that allowed him to have a lot stronger buffs than what you would probably expect a lot of stunners and just other classes in general to have. But they made it that way because he's only going to have certain units that he can work with in the long haul. And with Fufu, I think she's going to be the opposite of that. She's going to be the unit that provides universal support for her team, but her buffs aren't going to be as insane as Lighter's, which is fine. I think that's a great decision to do, and it's a very smart thing to do in order for Lighter and Fufu to both exist within the same space. Like, I imagine Fufu is going to be kind of similar to Pan, where she's going to be designed to work with Xuan. Xuan, again, needs more characters to work with, and I don't think Xuan's additional ability will include working with a fire or stun unit, because I don't imagine they will let her work with Lighter. But it could more than likely allow her additional ability to be able to work with characters a part of her faction, making Fufu a viable option to be on a Xuan team. The more important thing that I think Fufu's introduction here is for is that I think that she is a designated support for our upcoming attacker, whose whole kit is around being a part of teams with 2 stunners. Yes, I think Fufu is going to be one of Hugo's designated partners, but not only Hugo, I think she's going to be a part of his best in slot team with Lighter Hugo Fufu. I think that's going to be his best team in the game, and it just makes the overall move sense. You're going to have a niche stunner that's going to be able to buff his ice DPS while also being able to build stunner really well, and you're going to have another stunner who's more than likely going to play the off-field stunner position of being able to still support and provide her team her overall buffs, whatever she's going to be doing, while also allowing Lighter and Hugo to be the main on-field stars. I think when it comes to the buffs that she's going to provide, they're going to be pretty generic. They're going to be universal things that most characters can take advantage of. And I imagine it's going to be something completely different to what Chingy and Trigger is doing, because basically Chingy and Trigger already covers the stun damage multiplier buffs that we need out of a stun unit. So I could imagine Fufu may be providing an attack increase or maybe some crit value buffs, because if she's going to be working with Hugo, and I have Hugo in mind, the thing that Hugo will want to be focusing on is attack and crit based values. And so this would just make the most sense to have Fufu to provide those type of increases for her to be able to support her dedicated DPS, even if she's not going to be made to support Hugo. Having things like crit value increases in general is pretty good, because it's just overall going to increase a DPS's damage output. Also, like I was saying earlier, she's more than likely going to be an off-field stunner, because everything so far when it comes to design philosophy of a lot of characters recently is that the ZZZ team wants to make sure that characters are constantly providing or constantly doing things on field, even when they're not the main ones being controlled, which is off-field support. But I hope that when it comes to her off-field support design, that she's not as strictly off-field as characters recently like Pokra and Trigger. I hope that she's much more of a mix, where she does something off-field, but you still want to play her somewhat on-field, either to build up a resource, or maybe when she's off-field, she's kind of like Ladder, where she's building up her own resource, and when she comes back on-field, she's going to be dishing out major stun, major damage, or whatever it may be. Something of that nature to make her feel like that you're playing the unit, because that's one of the things that I kind of dislike when it came to some of the units within 1.5, 1.6, where that we start to get a little too off-field in my opinion, and characters felt a little less hands-on. And I want to be able to enjoy the characters that I pull and actually play them. So having a on and off-field type of vibe with a 50-50, I think that'll be a much better feeling and a lot more enjoyable for her. But overall, I think that's it in regards to Pan, Yinhu, and Fufu. These characters are looking super exciting for the 2.0 and anniversary of Zenless Zone Zero, and I can't wait until we actually see much more about these characters. If you guys are excited for any of these units, let me know. I'm expecting most of you guys to be excited about Xuan, but let me know if I got some people down there that got some love for Pan and Fufu as well. Like I said earlier, Pan is probably one I'm most excited for, but after Pan, Fufu might have my interest more over Xuan. Xuan currently right now is a little basic to me. She seems like she's going to be strong, but I don't know. She doesn't scream uniqueness to me yet. So I have to wait and see how her gameplay is going to be, which we'll have to wait for that for all these characters. But let me know how you guys are feeling in the comments below. But I appreciate you guys and all your love and support. Remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And always remember to believe in you that believes in yourself. I'll see you guys in the next one.